Now, ahead of Donald Trump's presidential inauguration, the Senate has begun confirmation hearings for his cabinet nominees. Trump's pick to lead the Pentagon, Pete Hegseth, was first to appear before the Armed Services Senate Committee.
When President Trump chose me for this position, the primary charge he gave me was to bring the warrior culture back to the Department of Defense.
Now, the former Fox News host came under fire, with many raising questions on his credibility, lack of experience, and alleged incidents of drunkenness. Hegseth, one of Trump's first cabinet picks, faces a slew of accusations with respect to sexual and general misconduct. He had previously paid a woman who had accused him of sexual assault as part of a non-disclosure agreement. Committee members grilled Hegseth, particularly on conduct with women. Hegseth's personal life, alleged cheating scandals, and other accusations of misconduct came under fire several times throughout the hearing. Democrat Senator Jack Reed, among others, termed Hegseth unqualified for the job.
Hegseth, you are the 9th nominee for Secretary of Defense that I've had the honor to consider as a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. I have voted in favor of all your predecessors, including those in the first Trump administration. Unfortunately, you lack the character and composure and competence to hold the position of Secretary of Defense. Thank you.
And not just the male senators. Several women senators doubled down on Hegseth over his comments on military diversity, particularly women in combat.
As recently as November the 7th of 2024 on the Sean Ryan Show, you said, and I quote, "I'm straight up saying that we should not have women in combat roles. It hasn't made us more effective."
I appreciate your comments, and I would point out I have never disparaged women serving in the military. I respect every single female service member that has put on the uniform, past and present.
You cannot denigrate women in general, and your statements do that. We don't want women in the military, especially in combat. What a terrible statement. So please, do not deny that you've made those statements. You have.
Hegseth was also questioned about an alleged sexual assault, which Hegseth denies and authorities investigated and declined to pursue. He was also involved in an exchange over his alleged drunkenness at work events.
Memorial Day 2014, at a CVA event in Virginia, you needed to be carried out of the event for being intoxicated.
Senator, anonymous smears.
Just true or false? Very simple. Summer of 2014 in Cleveland, drunk in public with the CVA team.
Anonymous smears.
Republican senators, however, came to Hegseth's defense and accused Democrats of just putting on a show.
A man who has literally put his butt on the line, who served 20 years in service, multiple deployments, has heard the bullets crack over the top of his head, has been willing to go into combat, been willing to see friends die for this country, and he's willing to still put himself through this. His wife is willing to still stand beside him, knowing he wasn't perfect, knowing that all this was going to be brought up, and he's still willing to serve the country. What other qualifications does he need?
Hegseth has vowed to abstain from alcohol if confirmed and said he made some financial errors but denies any wrongdoing. He remains one of the most controversial individuals to be hired by Trump in his upcoming presidency. He has also been under the lens for alleged financial mismanagement at a veterans organization. Joanna LeBlanc is a political analyst, national security law analyst, and foreign relations expert. She's now joining us from Washington, D.C. Joanna, thank you very much for making time for us, and welcome to WION World is One. It's good to see you. Let's talk about the hearings, because I understand you've been in the U.S. legislative department at the U.S. Congress. How can this process be understood by the rest of the world? Because How important is it? How significant is the confirmation hearings? Let's start from there.
Thank you so much for having me. Yes, I once served as a legislative director at the United States Congress. So I spent many nights and many days briefing my boss to prepare for various types of hearings at the U.S. Congress. So this process is essentially an opportunity for senators. As you know, under our Constitution, the president nominates, but the Senate ultimately has to confirm. So if the president does not confirm your nominee will not be able to work for the cabinet. So this is a process where the members of the Senate get to really know the nominee, get to know about their objectives, get to know about their work experience, get to know about their life experiences as well, to determine if they are the ultimate best fit for the position. But what I will tell you is that ultimately, Mr. Trump was elected by the people, by the American people, and he is entitled to nominate whomever he sees fit in order to carry out his objective to ensure that he has a very successful administration.
Madam LeBlanc, if a nominee is rejected by the committee, what happens next?
If a nominee is rejected, then the nominee is rejected, right? You can't start working until you actually are confirmed by the Senate. So the Senate plays a critical role. But what I can tell you is that beyond what you're seeing on the screen, there's a great deal of lobbying that actually takes place even prior by the candidate, by the nominee himself, as well as by various interest groups that may support the nominee, and also by interest groups that may not support the nominee. But I think that, as you may know, when the people of America voted, many of these senators, Democrat senators, won their seats in their respective states, while Kamala Harris did not win in their state, but the president did win. So they also have to be very mindful of the constituency to ensure that they actually support candidates that the nominees, rather, that the president actually chooses, or else it could be seen unfavorable by their constituency.
Madam LeBlanc, finally, I didn't want to ask this question, but I have to ask it. How do you view Hegseth's hearing? What do you make of it?
Hegseth's hearing is no different from any other hearing, right? You have politicians who are going to use the opportunity to really ask the tough questions, to really get to understand the nominee's intent and the nominee's work experience, to make sure that the nominee is actually a good fit, which is good, because that is the purpose of the Senate, right? The Senate is supposed to advise and consent when it comes to these various nominees. But obviously, there are those who are also going to utilize the process to score political points, right, to gain sound bites so that they can appear on the latest television show here in the U.S. or even abroad. So there's a lot of theatrical that also takes place in this process, right? Because again, they want to show to their constituents at the end of the day that they're fighting for their interests in Washington. And also those who are belong to the same party as the president, they also want to show their loyalty to the president as well, and show the president that they're going to do whatever it takes to ensure that his nominee is confirmed so that Mr. Trump can have a full cabinet when he takes office January 20th.
All right. Madam Johanna LeBlanc, thank you very much. Good to see you. Thank you very much for talking to us today.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me.